Hey everyone, how's it going? And welcome back to the channel. This is going to be part 3 in the Armiger project. So if this happens to be the first time you're coming in contact with it, I'm going to be using bits from Tarot Model Maker. This is, well, with the exception of the conversion beamer, all the parts there. It's going to be Storm Shield, Thunder Hammer, articulated hands, shoulders, replacement headpiece. And then the Morax kit from Forge World, which is a hybrid kit, so meaning you're going to be getting plastic as well as resin in there. So that I do like those kits. It does keep the cost down, and you don't have to work so much with Forge World resin. Kind of the too long, don't want to watch recap. Tarot Model Maker stuff, great, absolutely fast cleanup. Didn't require a lot of scrubbing. Shipping was fast, even during the Corona lockdown. It really good. A very positive interaction with that company altogether. Getting to the Forge World stuff, and this is the section where I'm going to be going through and prepping everything and kind of what I did for it. I realize there isn't a whole bunch of videos out there. Let me rephrase that. The internet could probably use another how to deal with Forge World resin video. So what I do is it's nothing really fancy you have to do with it. This is just any plastic container. I happen to buy the very high-end noodle kits from the grocery store, and they happen to come with these reusable containers in them, and I use them for modeling and such projects. So I have several of these in various stages of models, like painted, primed, but not necessarily assembled. Like I'm waiting on stuff, so they're great for that. What I've done so far is I do this process over the course of like half a day, like 12 hours or overnight. Get this full of hot water just off the tap. I wouldn't go through and heat some up in the microwave or boil any, just whatever's coming out of your faucet's fine. And for the soap, or I'm sorry, let me back up. The whole reason why we do that is to get the mold release off of it. So when they make them, they go into a mold. In this case, I believe they spin them down, and there's a coating or some sort of chemical that they have in between the resin and the mold to help the mold release from the part, and you don't get as much marring interference, or you get a much cleaner release from that, and you don't end up screwing up the part in the very last critical moments of it. So it is a necessity of just working with resin or working with any sort of injection molding or spin molding or anything like that. So we have to get it off of there, which is the whole reason why we're doing this. Now, the reason why you want to is you get big globs of mold release. They don't lend themselves so well to paint. Now, I learned this lesson the first time on how thorough you need to be on my Leviathan Dreadnought. I happened to miss a section on the underslung barrel, and after I painted everything a few days later, that chunk just came off. Just the paint did. Not necessarily the resin, but it just the big section of mold release came off, and I had to go back and repaint it, and that was kind of a pain. So ever since then, I've been going through and been a little bit more thorough about the scrubbing and haven't hit that issue again. So, lesson learned. But just hot water off the tap. And for the soap, I am using nothing fancy here, just regular Dawn, not sponsored by them or not an advertisement, but just regular dishwashing hand soap. Nothing really fancy. So you don't need to go out and get some high-end soap that you can't find anywhere. Like you have to go to an artisan store that only happen. No, none of that. Just get some good old-fashioned kitchen soap, fill it up, and put the lid on, and you just let it sit, do its magic for about 12 hours or so. The next phase, I'm going to come in, and I have a rough bristle brush, not necessarily too rough, because if it's too rough, it'll actually scrape some of the fine detail off. So this is kind of a good go-between. And I'm just going to run this parts under hot water and just scrub the crap out of them. That part's going to take, well, normally for a full kit, if there was like both of these at the same time, maybe 20-30 minutes, because again, I'm being thorough. This part's probably going to take 10 or 15 minutes. I'm going to do that off camera because it's boring. It is so incredibly boring. And here, I'm going to go ahead and just simulate what that's going to look like. No one wants to see that for 10 or 15 minutes. So I'll go ahead and do that off camera. Now, while I was cleaning up the parts, trimming the mold slippage, which I lucked out with this kit. This had a minimal amount of stuff on it. This is going to be very fast. There's only a few minor repairs. I switched back to my other camera for recording, so I'm going to pull the parts out of water that I'm talking about. I have the camera set to manual focus, so if you bear with me for just a second and don't mind things being out of focus for a few frames. Here we go. So in the process of, there we go. Now let's get my handy dandy pointer. Of cleaning up, I've discovered a few air pockets. So we got one spot that needs to be repaired here, another spot down here that needs to be repaired. So I have that across a few models. I believe there it is, okay. So I was talking about in the other video, but I got another bubble right there. And I think there was another piece, but I think that was just mold slippage to clean up, so I don't think it was too big, but really lucked out, and those are about the only ones I've noticed so far. Oh, I'm gonna have to repair this section down here, just because I strongly dislike how they put the raceway. I think the raceway is the proper term for it. On these ones, because when you start trimming, if you can tell here by the thickness of this, she's thick. But if you start getting a little more aggressive to try and even it out, you end up going through the trim, and you can actually blow through this entire section and make this look awful. So I'm going to actually have to just resculpt the whole bottom of it, which sounds more complicated than it actually is. Just some green stuff, some water, and then a flat surface to kind of smooth it out. Process isn't going to take too long, but I did luck out with this kit a lot. Let's go back in frame. There we go. Did luck out with this kit a lot, and I don't have to do a whole bunch of stuff for that. So before I leave for that, one more thing I forgot to mention in the beginning part, how you can tell if you've gotten all of it. Very important. When you pull these parts out, you want them to have kind of a dull matte sort of finish. So the mold release typically on Forge World is rather shiny. It's kind of glossy. So yeah, I do have some parts that I'm going to save. I should have brought them out earlier. That would have been a smart thing to do. Sounds like a good idea, which is probably why it didn't happen. There we go. So hopefully you can kind of get the shininess off these ones. So these ones haven't been prepped or anything like that, so you can kind of see the shine to them. It's very subtle on the camera, but in person it's clear as day. So then we jump over to this one, and it's kind of dull. These ones have a shine to them. So that's what we're looking for to see if we got all of it, is when this dries out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we're going to get on with the whole building part of it, and I'm going to get it mocked up a little bit just to show what it's going to kind of look like before I move on to the actual kit bashing part. So that's going to be part 4, is when I get everything completely built in, molded, or it's not molded, but modeled to how I want it. And then part 5, we're going to start getting into painting. And for this one, since I'm doing a big old series about it, I think I'm gonna make this the paint job a little bit more than all the other ones. I'm gonna make this one stand out. So instead of using like the Citadel paints, or metallics, I should say, I'm gonna switch over to the Vallejo alcohol-based paints, and I'll make a video on kind of how to deal with that one. They can be a little tricky, but I do like working with them, and holy crap, is their tone on those things absolutely gorgeous. I love those paints. So I'm going to make this guy stand out with some very, very nice, beautiful looking paint. But let me go ahead and do the boring part. I will see you guys in a moment through Magic of editing. Welcome back to the magic of editing. It's actually been a couple days. No, I'm sorry, not a couple days. It's been a day. So I had some real life stuff going up. So that's why the camera angle's probably different. I doubt it's in the exact same spot. I had to take the tripod down and everything. But I got a little carried away and ended up building some stuff. So, but good news is, did get all of the holes filled on the bubbles in here. So if you're wondering how to do that, you just take some green stuff, slap that in there. Yeah, use water on your tools so that way it doesn't stick to anything, and press it in level, press it in level, press it in level, and do that about 3 or 4 times for each of the bubbles. You can use either liquid green stuff or the non-liquid green stuff. I like to use the non-liquid stuff because at that time I also like to throw in magnets and all that great stuff. So on that's no, I was going to go with the carapace next. That's what it was. So I ended up magnetizing the carapace with some of the extra spare green stuff I had. There is a divot in this particular section where the shield generator node gets glued in, but or you can kind of see it on the backside here. So I decided I was going to put the magnet there because I do have my carapace mounted weapon. Now the kit currently does not have that option. So I don't know if that's going to change in the future. Probably not, but if it does, magnets, you know. And for the conversion beamer, ended up cutting that part off, again, putting a little divot in there to give the magnet some room, using again, the spare extra green stuff, putting in there with some super glue support. And then for the tubing that I snapped off in a previous part, these little power nodes here are from the backpacks on the heavy plasma cannons that the Hellblasters come with. So I just one of their backpacks gave me 3 of these nodes. So I ended up using 2 backpacks just to get the 4th, put them there and glued them, and I kind of like the effect over here. So that's going on there, and boom. So magnets, yeah. So when it comes to building and getting the arms, the easiest way I found to do that is pick up some poster tack. I don't know necessarily what they call it in your neck of the woods, but for mine it is poster tack. This one happens to be white. Sometimes they're blue. I would definitely recommend picking this stuff up just for hobby advice in general. I got this big pack over here for like $2.99, like $3. So that's more poster tack than I'm probably going to use ever, but that is an option. So also in building these kits, sorry, I meant to do this a little bit earlier. When we're gluing it in and getting this section, since they're combination, the resin here doesn't do well with the plastic glue. So when we get the plastic to plastic sections over here, use the plastic glue, and then we get over here, switch to the super glue. And when the super glue dries, it kind of does this weird frosting effect. So be a little bit aware of that. And then as this is drying, kind of stop using the glue at that little section. Don't go above it, because helpful tip when you're getting it in place. Oh, there we go. Pop that bad boy on there, and that'll help you line things up. If you kind of goof on the super glue, like you're attaching this part here, and you need to snap the part off, I would use progressive pressure. So push very, very gently first, and then just incrementally, very slowly ramp it up. You don't want to use chongo strength and just to shear that off. And if it's still giving you a problem, put it in the freezer and let it sit there for like 30 minutes to an hour. There's something about the cold changes the crystalline structure of the glue, and it really weakens it down. You can pop that stuff off pretty easy. So there is that. But the reason why I mentioned the poster tack earlier is because when we're building the articulated arms, it's a lot easier to do with this stuff. You can just tack the parts in place how you want, kind of mock it up, see how it looks, glue it, and it just makes putting these things together so much easier. So there is that. And then same thing went ahead and did for this arm. Now I put both the arms the maximum they can go outward, because I'm going to have about 3 pulls for attention on this model, 4 if you want to include the model itself. So I'm going to have the shield over here, the hammer over here, and then the conversion beamer. I'm going to be doing a charging effect, so it's going to be progressively getting brighter, and then we inside the cone over here, it's also going to be the same color as it's here, so it kind of looks like it's charging up, getting ready to fire. And if you put all of that just really close together, it's all just competing for the eye, and it just ends up looking really... it just doesn't give everything else in the model time to breathe, or room to breathe, I should say. So if you space it out a bit, that will give you... it'll give the eye time to identify things individually, and it won't look as compact and crowded. So that's kind of the idea between spacing everything out, kind of the pose and the reason why the hammer is there and the way the shield's there. But on the shield, what I'm coming into is I wanted to do the whole like trophy rack thing, but again, it's just pulling too much and it's competing too much. So what I've settled is I'm going to use this specific faceplate because there is a bit of a story time there with that one. And then using a transfer sheet from the Forge World Custodes transfer over here. Now, the story behind this one is, last time I tried telling it to be like a 20-minute story, but I'll give you the too long don't want to watch version, because I'm willing to bet this video is going to be pretty hefty already. But just started 8th edition, 3 months into actually playing tabletop. I've been doing lore and the video games for a considerable amount of time, so I'm not necessarily new to the world and the story and the setting, but new to tabletop. And I started out with 2 halves of the Dark Imperium box for the Death Guard, as well as 2 Death Guard halves of the No Fear. So I'm coming off of that, got everything built, got everything primed, and I had at that point just a handful of models actually painted up. And the only reason I'm going to bring up the quality is not to like brag or pat myself on the back or anything like that, but the quality was good. It was people were asking, like, they would see my models, the few that I had painted, and they were wondering, like, they were starting to ask questions like as if I've been playing and painting for a while. So they're better than average. And the gentleman that I was playing against, his paint job, and the only reason I bring it up is because it's relevant to the story. I'm really not one of those like shaming people. His paint job kind of sucked. He used the testers like auto paints, and it looked like hot garbage. And the only reason why I bring that up is because this guy starts talking shit about my army not being painted. In which I reminded him, I was like, hey, from the time I purchased these models to right this second, it's been about 3 months. And I have this much already built, assembled, or built, primed, and then I have a few things painted nicely. And, it takes time to paint to that level, and he just kind of doubled down on that and just still talk some shit. So I was a little upset over that, and instead of, I'm taking my basketball and I'm going home, I was like, all right, I'm going to table this guy. So at that point, I think it was like my 2nd or 3rd game playing, but I had wherewithal enough to list build. And then the nice thing about the Death Guard Codex is there's really only like 6 things in the Codex worth spending command points on and all this great stuff. So ended up really ruining this guy's day to the point where I haven't played a game against him yet again. But so that's the reason why this specific knight faceplate, even though it's one of the, in my opinion, one of the ugliest ones, is going to be on here, and it's going to be painted up in his horrible ass paint scheme, except for I'm going to paint it to actually better standard than what his looks like. And now that I'm thinking about it, I should probably show you the absolute garbo quality that this guy felt that he was entitled to talk shit on other people's paint jobs for. And it's again, I'm not one of those persons that does that. It's just that, if this guy wasn't being a tool, this wouldn't have happened, is what I'm trying to say. I probably should have brought this up. This is kind of like a on the fly kind of thing. Where's my painting? There we go. Imperium, and then we got Knights. Oh, we got other people's stuff. Okay, and then here we go. It's about to splash right on the screen. Oh, God, good Lord. That is just awful. Okay, it's probably better than it's zoomed in like this so we can see how bad it was. So this is again the faceplate. And then splotchy, gloss varnish, nothing really primed, you know, it's just looking awful. Didn't even have his base done. All that, and this guy was talking a grip of shit the entire time about my unpaint, like mostly just primed on, and you know it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But instead of getting all bent out of shape, I just tabled the dude. But that's the faceplate I'm going to use. I'm going to put it on the shield. I'm probably going to have to end up painting the face of the shield a different color to give it some contrast, so we just don't have gold on gold on gold on gold. But this is the awfulness that this guy felt entitled to start talking shit on. But anyway, so that's why that's going there on the shield as a trophy. But so let's go ahead and get this thing mocked up how I want it to look, and we're going to be using the poster tack. And this part's always the most. There we go. And then I'll use one of the big blobs in the back here just to keep it, boom, steady. And, oh, I almost forgot about the torso extension. The torso extension is really cool. Oh, let me get this. There we go. So the torso extension fits over here. Now, it is interlocking, and because of this back tab here is a little bit short, so it is possible to install this incorrectly. So just be mindful of that, but it does add a significant amount of freedom because this back part here traditionally would be much lower and the pack would hit the back here. So instead of that, we get a lot more articulation and a lot more freedom of motion. Alright, but let's get some of that going. I'll get the armor on at least. This is also fun for just mocking stuff up. There you are. Oh no. So roll that up to the top. Yeah. Yeah. And this stuff also sticks to itself, so you can just use the blue or the poster tack to get the poster tack off the model. We're done. So, bam. Index that there. Index that there. Probably should get the shoulder pads. That would be one of those good ideas. So there we go already, and then I'm going to have this a little bit more further down. So again, it's out to give it room to breathe, like visually. This is, oh. Let's put that bad boy right there. That bad boy right there. So this is kind of what it's going to be mocked up when it's done. But again, this is done with, you know, kind of poster tack and the best intentions and luck right now. But we're going to have that there. And that's what it's going to look like. So pretty cool looking. I'm digging it so far. So really excited about painting it. So, yep, but the hammer section will be down a little bit more, but actually that up kind of looked pretty good as well. So may end up doing that. But so let's see here. Kind of just let that implode on itself at the moment. Here we go. So the next video is going to be priming and painting. But so far, really enjoying the all the bits for the so far. The Forge World kit, I lucked out and got a good one that didn't have a lot of bubbles in it. Again, the Tarot Model Maker bits, lucked out on those ones. Got it. I shouldn't say lucked out because this is my first time ordering from them. I don't know if that's just their standard quality level, but quality level again with theirs was actually really high. All the bubbles that I did experience were in the most convenient places possible, like inside the sections get glued together that you're never going to see, so I didn't even have to bother filling anything on the tarot parts. So great. Again, I don't know if that's just business as usual for the company. This is my first time working with them, but very impressed with what I have so far. All right, but anyway, I'll see you guys on the next one.